Hello YouTube and fellow Star Wars collectors! On this episode of Toys Are the Way, we'll be taking a look at another character from the most recent wave of vintage collection figures for 2025, Moff Gideon, Dark Trooper armor from Season 3 of The Mandalorian. Welcome back everyone and channel members. So here we have yet again another piece of the puzzle when it comes to our Mandalorian collections, and this time it's a character from Season 3, Moff Gideon in his Dark Trooper armor. Now this is definitely a character a lot of people wanted to see added to our collections, and I personally am really happy to finally have it, but it would always be nice if, Hasbro could really strike when the iron's hot and get us this character either when the show is on or very shortly after the show has wrapped up. Now, I know they work very closely with Lucasfilm on, obtaining these assets, and while spoilers and leaks are a bit of a bummer, it's also a bummer not to have figures in hand while a show is on. I personally think marketing and merchandise is very important to the Star Wars fandom, and I would love to see this gap, become a bit smaller and just get these figures out there while the show is on. But with all that being said and done, don't forget to smash a like on this video, subscribe if you're new, or even become a channel member, and let's take a closer look at the packaging and figure. Taking a look at our vintage style packaging, we have the Star Wars and Mandalorian logo very nicely displayed up top, followed by Moff Gideon Dark Trooper armor on a bright red name pill color. We have a really nice image of the character taken directly from the show in his Beskar armor, looking really good with that Electro staff and the Kenner logo down below. And then we have this all new from the ground up figure looking really good on a bubble with a number of accessories. But I will point out that it's missing one very important accessory, the portrait of the actor. That looks ridiculous to not have that in here, and just the helmet, I don't know. Hasbro, what were you thinking there? I really don't think that was a smart move, but I digress. On the back, he is VC 368 in the line, Moff Gideon, Dark Trooper armor. And we have a small description of the character, followed by the Vintage Collection logo, and additional images of the card and figure. So once again, our Mandalorian carded collection continues to grow and grow. And I'm definitely very excited to add this one to the collection wall. And while it's not exactly perfect, it's going to make a fine addition to the line. Taking a look at Moff Gideon out of the packaging and focusing on the photoreal and portrait. Oh wait, we don't have a portrait or photoreal. We just have the helmet. But taking a look at the helmet, it does have some nice paint applications on it. You got some different tones of red here between the markings and the visor, so that looks really cool. The visor actually has a little bit of a metallic sheen to it, so I think that's actually pretty neat. You can see some nice line work there in detail. That's very fine work, so I also appreciate that. But other than that, it's just a black shiny helmet with not much else going on. It does have those spikes that are callback to the Mandalorians, but yeah, not much else going on. I'm, like I said, a little disappointed they did not opt to put in the portrait from Season 3 where he doesn't have the mustache. And yeah, well, I'm very happy to have this. Where is my portrait? I want to display this figure properly. So you are able to pop off the head, just like so, which is nice. This is how we wanted it to be, the hard plastic swappable head and helmet. And yeah, you have this stem in here. Okay, so here you can see I've taken out the barbell joint, and now we have to put in the new replacement head, if you will, which is actually an old head from one of the previous Moff Gideon figures. Now you can see that that is not a long stem, so I think it's going to have a little bit of trouble, but let's see if we can get this on there. So here you can see the previous head from another figure put onto this body, and while it did kind of work, it was kind of challenging. You actually had to push this down quite a bit. The peg itself was not very long, and just like it wasn't a very easy fit, if you will. Now it is an alternative, and it kind of works. It kind of seems like it also has a very limited range of motion, just because that peg was not exactly designed for this. See, it falls right out. It doesn't really go all the way down. Now, I will fix that maybe in the future with like a longer peg of my own custom design. But yeah, they really should have included that head sculpt and, just done this proper. Hasbro, don't do stuff like this in the future, please. Moff Gideon Dark Trooper armor comes with a total of 4 accessories. His Electro staff and accessory that can be put onto the end of the spear, a removable jetpack, and his blaster pistol. Moving on to the rest of the figure and the articulation, Moff Gideon Dark Trooper armor does have a lot of what we all like to see on our modern 3.75 Star Wars action figures. He's got all the articulation to help hold down Mandalore. So, of course, he's got the barbell hip system, which is just standard on all of our newer figures. He's got a swivel at the thigh. He's got the great bend at the knee there, pretty much 90 degrees. And then, of course, he has a hinge on the ankle as well as rockers on there. So he will definitely be able to do some really nice posing and will balance quite well on your shelf. Now he does have this soft plastic holster here with that very, very tiny pistol, if we can get it out, which does then go back in there and is nice and snug. So you won't have to worry about losing that. No one likes that kind of stuff. He does have a hinge at the wrist, which is great, so he can actually point the staff in a convincing manner and just use it properly. It has that electro effect on the end, which is great. You can simply take that off, and then you have, just the non-electric version of the staff. Moving on to the rest of the upper body, he does have a great torso crunch here with some really good range of motion. He can rotate 360 degrees and just get some nice, dynamic posing out of that. Moving on to the rest of the upper body, Hasbro always uses this soft plastic armor now, which is great. Does not hinder any of that upper arm articulation at the shoulder. He's got a hinge again at the elbow, which is pretty much 90 degrees. And yeah, then we finish off with the helmet, which has some pretty decent range of motion. He can tilt it side to side, definitely downward. Can't really look super far up. That's just a limitation we see because of the barbell. But all in all, looking pretty decent. And then moving on to the back, of course, we have a jetpack, which is on that standardized peg system that we see nowadays. So you could put a different one on here, and it simply pegs through the hole on the cape and into his back, which if we take a look back here under the cape, you can see some of that detail. And yeah, I guess he doesn't have armor right there or something, so don't get shot in the back. But let's get his cape back, or his jetpack back on. There you go. And get this cape out of the way. Kind of an interesting design. When I saw that in the show, it's hard to tell, but I guess it magnetically clamps onto his armor or something like that. Who knows? Maybe he has a hole in his cape. But yeah, taking a look at the rest of the figure, some really nice sculpting and detail. He's kind of got some nice weight to him with this armor, and yeah, just nice to get this figure in hand. The one last thing I will point out is that this is a very similar cape to the other Moff Gideons, where it has this elastic strand here that just goes off around his arm, and you're able to take that off if you want. But the one thing I wanted to highlight is it's kind of like a cheaper material. It feels a little thinner. It's kind of frayed on the edges, and it's just not quite as nice as the one that came in the rescue set. So that's a little unfortunate, but not a super big deal breaker. Here we have Moff Gideon in his Dark Trooper armor compared to the previous releases. On the far left, we have that first release that has the hard plastic cape, which was definitely not ideal, and then later we get the upgrade here in the rescue set. This is definitely my favorite release, and just look at the soft goods. Something about them looks a little bit more quality, the edges aren't so raggedy, and I think it's just a better material. But yeah, this is definitely my favorite release of Gideon to date, and while the armored look is superb and pretty amazing, it's just, it's fallen a little short because it didn't get that portrait, which would have made it a perfect figure. My clones! The human inside was the final weakness to be resolved with the Dark Trooper design. But Moff Gideon decided to take it up a notch with a somewhat ludicrous plan, thinking there is no stopping Beskar and his clones. Fully loaded with an arsenal of modern articulation, this 375 figure is another impressive masterpiece. Dark Trooper Gideon holds the Electro Staff well and is able to achieve a two-handed grip of the weapon in addition to a number of strong battle poses. Although the single-handed grip is a bit challenging due to the thin nature of the accessory and soft plastic grip, which has been a point of critique for some fans as Hasbro aims to deliver film-accurate proportions for these action figure weapons. Moff Gideon is able to hold the small blaster pistol quite well, and the weapon is easily stored in the soft plastic holder. Gideon is armed with exceptional sculpting and detail and fully loaded with premium articulation such as ball-jointed hips, swivels at the thigh, rocker ankles, and a number of hinges on the limbs, ensuring the Moff will have no problems cutting down anyone who stands in his way as he restores order to the galaxy. Dark Trooper Gideon sports the hard plastic sculpted helmet, but unfortunately no Season 3 portrait or extra punching hands accessory that would allow him to pummel the Mandalorian during their skirmish on the Imperial base. Additionally, while the soft goods cape is greatly appreciated, the stitching on the back is not ideal, and perhaps the edges could have been executed better. Regardless, this is another fine addition to our Mandalorian collections. I hope you've enjoyed this video and taking a look at this latest addition to our vintage collection shelf displays, Moff Gideon Dark Trooper armor from Season 3 of The Mandalorian. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And don't forget to drop a like on this video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. It really helps and is always greatly appreciated. Thanks everyone, and may the Force be with you.